to the original friend of God, who is none other than Abraham.
Right.
Abraham is even mentioned in the book of Psalms as Avraham Ahuvi. Abraham, my beloved. And Abraham is really the initial man who connected, was like a bridge between God and his children on earth. And this was the city, one of the cities that Abraham lived in. Another was where I live, about 10 minutes away from here. and to this day, Hebron is really I guess you could call it a flashpoint of the world's story. So we don't have a lot of time today. I'm going to try my best to tell about 4,000 years of history in about 40 minutes. So
you'll come a little closer to me so I don't have to speak too loudly. We're standing right on the other side of this lattice division from the yeshiva, from a place where Jews study Torah. So instead of screaming like normal Torah is, present company accepted, I will try to talk quietly. Anyway, once again, I don't think I introduced myself. My name is Gidon Ariel, and I live here in Hebron, about 10 minutes away, in a small community named, I'll tell you a story about that in a second, a small community named Ma'alei Hever. I previously explained that Hebron comes from the word friend, and Ma'alei Hever, where I live, also means full of friends. Anyway, these birds that fly over, there's a Jewish tradition that there was a Jewish sage. When he would study Torah, if a bird would fly over his head, it would be burned because of the tremendous intensity of the study that he was doing. And that tradition states that he was the smallest of the students of his rabbi. So you can imagine what the types of traditions we have. That's why you'll barely find a study hall of Jewish texts that doesn't have an air conditioner in it. I was just kidding. Whoa, got it. Anyway, welcome again to Ma'arat HaMachpelah. This structure is on the spot, as it says here in the entrance in Hebrew, Ma'arat HaMachpelah Petach Gan Eden. This cave of the Machpelah is the entranceway to the Garden of Eden. We will be looking at a few of these beautifully embroidered signs, because they are all holding various traditions from the Jewish tradition about Ma'arat HaMachpelah and Hebron, and they are very beautiful. Anyway, Ma'arat HaMachpelah itself, Ma'ara means cave, and Machpelah actually means multiplication or double. So what we have over here are double caves that Abraham purchased from Ephron the Hittite. I have to learn English in order to. In Hebrew, the word is Hitti, but you have to translate. What can you do? So Hitti is the better way to say it. I'll give a little pitch here for Root Source. Many of you know Bob Odell and I, Gidon Ariel. We're partners in Root Source, root-source.com, which is you've already heard about it. We are a group of Jewish Israelis who teach Christians worldwide online about things that we like to teach, and that those Christians who want to learn them from us. So I invite you all to, if you like what I have to say today. If not, then you don't have to go there. But we have actually about a dozen teachers, and one of them teaches Instant Biblical Hebrew is the name of the course. So after you learn that for a few weeks, then maybe you'll be able to read this just like a sabra. No. Okay. Somebody write me a sign that says laugh. So Ma'arat HaMachpelah means that here in this in this, beneath this building are caves. That's why it's called Me'ara, the cave, but they are double caves. What exactly that means, we don't know. Or we won't know by the end of this short visit. But some of the things that Machpelah means, that double means, is that each of the people that are buried here, they are buried in pairs. Like we said before, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, and Jacob and Leah. And also there are 4. It's a double-double. There are 4 couples that are buried here. But I only mentioned 3.
It's not a dove, it's a pigeon.
My mother told me there'd be days like this.
I gotta ask, did anybody get that? Did anybody catch that picture? I want a copy. Okay, that was about 100 years that laugh just took us. Okay,
the fourth couple that is buried here, according to Jewish tradition, are none other than Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, the first man and woman, according to Jewish tradition, are also buried here. There's no symbol of it. There's no sign, as we will see, like there are signs of the other couples. But according to a Jewish tradition, this is where they are buried, and that comes together with this tradition that this is the entrance to the Garden of Eden. I will also, at the risk of not talking about 200 years or so, tell you a little tiny story about a gentleman by the name of Shai Agnon. Is there anyone here who's heard of Shai Agnon? Shai Agnon was the first Israeli to win a Nobel Prize. And he and he won the prize in literature. And he won a lot, and he wrote a lot of very, very beautiful stories. I'm going to just tell the koteret, the headline of one of the stories that he told, based on a Jewish tradition, that there was a gentleman who lived in Europe, which is where so many of his stories start, and he was trying to find where the delicious, delicious fruit that somebody told him had come from the land of Israel came from. So he followed the animal that brought the fruit, and he went into a cave, and he went and went and went and went until he finally got out of the cave. And there he was in Hebron, right here by the cave of the Machpelah. And so he said, this must be Gan Eden, this must be paradise, the Garden of Eden. So he quickly went back in order to bring his family, and his family said, I don't know, I'm not so sure, we have to worry, maybe I have to finish college, something like that. And then he could not find the opening of that cave till the end of the story. So it's a bittersweet ending of a beautiful story, like so many Jewish stories are. Let us now go into Me'arat Machpelah, because we're on a tour here, so I can't just stand here for the whole 45 minutes. And please, by all means, please approach me and say Gidon, and if you can't pronounce my name, then just say, hey you, and then ask me any questions that you'd like to ask, okay? Let us go.
Do we wear kippahs? Are we supposed to?
You can, yeah, you can. Yeah. So we've got no choice but to to fast forward about 40,000 years. Actually, I was just talking about Adam and Eve, aren't I? Fast forward about 6,000 years, and tell you about a tragic event that happened here about 30 years ago. This, we are now standing, in case anybody didn't realize, we're standing in what's called the West Bank in Judea, of Judea and Samaria, which was annexed by the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan for the 19 years between 1948, when Israel was founded, when Israel won the Independence War, which is, of course, it wasn't a war like the American Independence War. America fought Britain to gain independence from Britain. Are there any Americans here?
Actually, there is. There is a few.
But Israel did not fight Britain, which it gained its independence from. Israel fought 7 belligerent Arab armies that all put on a flag, death to the Jews. And somehow, with God's help, we managed to turn that over. Again, we don't have enough time to talk about the tremendous miracles of the 1948 war, where some battles were won because somebody remembered to bring a broomstick. So they used a broomstick as a gun. But but unfortunately, not all of the land of Israel was able to be incorporated in the nascent state of Israel, and Judea and Samaria were captured by the Jordan Legion, and therefore it was part of Jordan for 19 years. By the way, it wasn't recognized by anybody but Great Britain and Pakistan, that annexation. In 1967, we came back and captured or liberated these lands, and amongst them, some of the most holy spots in the land of Israel. And we will take a look now at a beautiful poster which was painted by a resident of Hebron, a Jewish resident of Hebron, that says, I'll just translate, we don't have a lot of time, so I won't first read it in Hebrew. Three places there are that all the nations of the world cannot say, these places are stolen in your hands. They can say a lot of things. You can claim you stole a lot of things, but there are three places that you cannot claim that the Jewish people stole. And what are they? They are Me'arat Machpelah, the cave of the Patriarchs, Kvuratal Shel Yosef, Joseph's tomb in Shechem, Nablus, and Beit HaMikdash, the holy temple in Jerusalem. And why is this? Because these three places, it's written in the Bible that Abraham and Jacob and David purchased. Move a little bit to the left and the right so that this group can pass by.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. I was just explaining how in the Bible, Moses split the Red Sea.
Of course. Enjoy your tour.
These three places in the Bible, it's mentioned how this wasn't something that the representatives of the Jewish people came in the middle of the night and took it and then had to fight about. No, these are places where they paid good hard cash for, so nobody can say that it was so. But lo and behold, these are exactly the three places that the nations of the world in our generation say we stole. The Jewish people stole. The Me'arat HaMachpelah, which is the central holy spot of the southern half of the West Bank, Judea, and Kvurato Shel Yosef, Joseph's tomb, in the northern part of the West Bank, which is near Shechem, in Shechem, Nablus, and of course Beit HaMikdash, which is Jerusalem, which is where David established the kingdom of Israel forever and ever. So it's just tremendous. It's actually tremendous to understand that possibly the most frictious point in the world today, for some reason, I mean, jillions of people are being killed all over the world, but the fact that Jews are building a porch in one of these places makes the entire world stop the press and say, we have to do something. And by the way, this tradition, this midrash, this is an important word, very important word. Midrash means a tradition that is studied based on the Bible. What's in the written Bible, but people gave like a preaching on it. And these preachings have stayed with us for thousands of years. This is the first midrash mentioned in the Bible. In other words, if you read the Bible, and traditionally as a Jew, then you read the first verse, and then you go to Rashi, who was a famous rabbi who collected all the important midrashes from every place and said this is connected to that verse. So I won't go into the whole verse. I will just tell you that this is it. This is the number one verse that all Jews in first grade study. So that is our connection here, and that, of course, is one of the numerous connections that we have here in the Me'arat HaMachpelah. Okay, but I was telling you about after 1967, we liberated the entire West Bank, Judea and Samaria, including in it this spot, Me'arat HaMachpelah, the cave, the tomb of the Patriarchs. By the way, another, trying to pick it out, the person who conquered, I started to give it away, the person who conquered this spot was the chief rabbi of the IDF later on to become the chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Shlomo Goren, Goren. He's got an incredible story. He was afraid that it would be conquered without him, like the Western Wall was conquered without him. He had to run and hurry, and then he had to set up a cameraman and say, "Okay, let's blow a shofar." He said, "That's not going to happen this time." So he got up a little bit early, and he got into it. He took a commandeered a jeep, and he said, "Let's go quickly to Hebron." He came to Hebron, and it was very quiet. He said, "My gosh, they got here before me. What can I do?" So he ran all the way quickly to the spot. And somebody came out to him and says, "Please, we surrender." And and so he captured Hebron without a shot. Without a single shot. Well, that's not true without a single shot. It was early in the morning, so the guy with the key wasn't around. So he shot the lock of this. And again, that's crazy, because now Hebron is one of the flare spots of violence in the Middle East. Well, not so much in the Middle East, because even still the Israeli army is around here, so we keep things on a low flame. But in the West Bank, it is a hotbed of Hamas terrorists. And that is finally what I'm going to bring me to what happened about 30 years ago. There was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Baruch Goldstein. I don't know if anybody's heard of him.
Yeah.
Yes. He was a doctor of the area, and he would, of course, treat everybody, just like normal Western doctors. He had moved from America to Israel, Arabs and Jews alike. But one day he overheard from the army, he said, "Listen, prepare a lot of ambulances and stuff, because as you can hear, the Arabs are singing Wallahu Akbar, Itbach el-Yahud." Itbach el-Yahud means murder the Jews. So it's not clear exactly what happened, but he came that day, dressed himself up in his reserve unit army clothes, took an M16 rifle, and went in to the tomb of Isaac's hall, and Muslims were praying there, and he started shooting at the Arabs, and about 35 Arabs were killed there, until they finally took him over him and murdered him. So until then, Jews and Arabs were walking around here the whole time. Many people, by the way, just to finish up that story, feel that he saved the Jewish community of Hebron, because they were afraid that these people would once again go on a murder spree, just as they had done in 1929, when 66 Jews were killed here. But I don't have enough time to tell that story. Look it up on Wikipedia. Anyway, since that happened, the Israeli government decided to divide the Me'arat HaMachpelah, this large building, to Jewish areas and Arab areas. So the Arabs get that big hall of Isaac and a few other halls, and the Jews get pretty much what you're going to see over here, which is basically two small halls and an entryway and an open air garden in the middle. So it's much smaller. We have closer to about 30% of the entire building, and 10 days out of the year, the 10 Jewish holidays, this entire building is off limits to Arabs, to Muslims, in which case we are enabled to go into the other places. And in parallel, 10 days of Muslim holidays, no Jews are allowed inside the Ma'arat HaMachpelah either. So, it's a shame, because we like to be able to go everywhere, but I'm hoping and praying that hopefully this year we will see that will be a solution to be imposed on the Temple Mount, where right now everybody is allowed on the Temple Mount, but in practice only Muslims are allowed on the Temple Mount. No one but Muslims are allowed to pray on the Temple Mount, the holiest spot for Jews in the world, and by extension for Christians. And we're hoping that there will be some sort of way that people will not be arrested on the Temple Mount for closing their eyes, as happened this week. Somebody who's a Waqf, which is a Muslim administrator, told the Israeli armed forces that were escorting a small group of Jews on the Temple Mount. He said, "Look at that man. He's closing his eyes. He must be praying." So they took him off. They took him off the mountain. Hey, you don't get to hear about all these kinds of things. So I've told you a little bit about this beautiful thing. I will also tell you this, and then we will go inside. Repeat after me. No. This is from the Jewish prayer. Again, it's from the beginning of the Jewish prayer to show how important and fundamental this idea is. God, when we pray to Him 3 times a day with the Jewish prayer of Shemona Esrei, again a little promo. I teach Jewish prayer on Root Source, so if you join us, you'll be able to learn all about it. God, you remember the compassion of the forefathers, and you bring a Redeemer to the sons of their sons for your or for His holy name in love. Now, almost every word that I said in this sentence is enough to tell volumes about. But just suffice it to say that our forefathers is what we are standing on. It's the foundation of the Jewish people is our forefathers. 3 forefathers. Get that? F? Not whatever. Third base. But it's really very important in our generation to recognize that we stand on a firm foundation. There's a story of a rabbi who was flying in a plane, sitting next to somebody who's not religious, and every so often a young boy would come up to the rabbi and say, "Is everything okay? Can I help you with anything? You want me to do something with your shoes?" And he says, "No, it's okay." Again, he came back, "Hey, can I get you something to do something like that?" Finally, the person sitting next to him says, "Who was that?" "Oh, that was my grandson." "Wow, he respects you so much. My grandson, the only thing that I hear from his grandpa, did you bring me anything?" He says, "Well, listen, I'll tell you, it's very simple. See, we believe that we are ancestors of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So my grandson reads all about them in the Bible, says, wow, my grandfather, he's closer to them than even I am. Amazing awe brings that. But you think that you're descended from apes. So your grandson, he thinks you're a little closer to an orangutan." Okay, you can use that. Okay, so let's go out and see a little bit more of that.